You're watching Mugen TV RPG Haven. Experience a fantasy like no other.
Hey guys, it's MugenLord here, and I'm back again with some more Final Fantasy VII Remake related content. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the videos. If you guys haven't checked out my previous video where I talk about how much Final Fantasy VII Remake will change the Nibelheim flashback at Calm, and now that we know a bit more details about Cloud and how he remembers that he killed Sephiroth, how much that will change a bit of his memories in the whole flashback between Calm, and how would that impact Tifa as well, knowing the fact is that Cloud still retains some of his memories. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts on that, so you can go check that out. It's the most recent video that I made related to Final Fantasy VII Remake. So let's dive into today's topic. This topic is a little bit different. This is in terms of gameplay and how they approach Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 and just the parts in general. And that's the progression system. Will there be a progression system with Final Fantasy VII Remake? How would they deal with this? Because since the game is not one full complete experience, Square found a way to be able to milk this by just breaking this game into multiple parts. Now, even though the producer said that each part will be its own game that has a beginning and end, what does that mean as far as the progression of characters, weapons, materia, and stats? How will this work? So this is what we're going to talk about. I don't think this video will be pretty long. This is something that I think we can just get to straight into the point, because I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this. So let's dive right into it. The progression system. Now, how would they be able to pull this off? Now, there's a plenty of games that has this whole multiple parts system that they have done in the past. Examples like games like Xenosaga had done this before in the past. And come on, I mean, if you guys aren't familiar, but if you are familiar, you guys have to remember the Dot Hack series on the PlayStation 2. You had Dot Hack, and then you had the Dot Hack GU. These games were RPGs that were actually broken into different parts, and essentially you had data that would transfer over from one part, and then it would transfer over to the next part, and it would carry over certain stats and certain items and just certain things that was essential for you to carry on with your character. Now, the thing is, what if you didn't have played the previous? How would it work if you dive into the sequel to a game, you know, of a multiple story arc or a multiple part series? If you was to dive into part 2 instead of playing part 1, how that would work? Well, essentially they would balance the game around a base level where the character or your party would start at a particular level. They use a particular set of items and skills that would start at that base level, and then they would balance around that base level. So will this be a mechanic implemented in Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2? Or just moving into the parts period? Will there be a mechanic or a system where it carries over, you know, your weapons, your materia, or even your weapon skills? Will it carry those stuff over, and then they balance it based on the things that you carry over and to move forward? And of course, if you haven't played the first Final Fantasy VII Remake and you just dive into part 2, they will pretty much essentially set you off at a base level and give you the essentials that allow you to be able to progress moving forward. Because I'm very curious about this, because I don't know how that will work. Because in the original Final Fantasy VII, you collected a bunch of different weapons, you collected a bunch of different materia, you level those materias up, you grind out a lot of materia, you get a lot of experience, and you progress through the game, and your character gets powerful and more powerful. And it's since if you're going to break this into multiple parts and you don't have no progression system, then how would your character feel powerful? Like, all that progress I made in Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1, and even in the Yuffie DLC, I just recently got the Ramu summon when I played the intermission DLC. And like I said before, I unlocked a lot of achievements. I leveled up my materia. I also leveled up my weapons, and especially I love my Buster Sword, and there's a lot of aspects to the upgrading system that I like about it, and I would love for that to carry over. So for them, if they don't implement that, it seemed like all that hard work that you made in the first game, it just seemed like it was for nothing. And if you're still going to have those same summons, then it would make sense, you know, for you to be able to carry over your items and your stats. Can you imagine just leveling up your lightning and you max out lightning just for you to play part 2, and then you have to start over again, or they start you out with max out lightning? What about evolution of materia within, you know, moving forward into the next game? How would they account for all this? That's what really got me scratching my head. I just can't see myself playing through the first game and grinding and leveling up through the first game, and then it just stops. Your progression is like it's just all for nothing. And I believe Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think the max level is 50. Is it? You would have to tell me in the comment section below. Can't remember, or is it 50 or 60? I think there's a level cap, I believe. So if there is a level cap, like there has to be some type of progression mechanic that they may implement or may have in place moving into the second game. I think this is something that when we finally do get some news on Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, hopefully this is something that they address and let fans know that what's going on in terms of that and how they're going to address that. Because like, I don't know, man, like I don't know how to feel about that, knowing that I won't have any of the materia that I used in the previous game, or I won't have any of the weapons that I had in the previous game. And the thing is, you won't start off overpowered, because the game would just balance itself based on the equipment that you have. It pretty much cap itself, or it cap your stats at a certain point, or the max possible you can have at the beginning of the game. It caps it right there, similar to how MMOs are, where you can have the highest equipment and stats going into a weaker dungeon, but what it does is it caps off your character, and it cap it at the max possible point that you can possibly be at that level at that point in the game. So I think that would be something they could possibly do. You know, that's what I'm really like hoping for and curious about how they will approach this. But the fact is that they're treating each game as each part as its own individual game from beginning to end really have me having a lot of questions on how they will approach this progression system. So that's pretty much it for this video. I definitely want to hear your thoughts on how they are going to approach a potential progression system for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 and multiple parts going forward within this Final Fantasy VII Remake universe, or this series of games that they have going on. I definitely want to hear your thoughts. Do you think that we don't need a progression system, that we should just start from scratch again and just work from there? Or do you think that they will add or have some type of progression system and they will implement it and balance the game based on the stats or the equipment that you have, and they just auto correct or balance it based around that? And if they do have the system in place, give me your ideas of how they can balance the game and how they can implement a progression system. I definitely hear those in the comment section below. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button, and if you just want to stay up to date with more Final Fantasy VII Remake news, or just have these discussion videos, definitely hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. This is MugenLord signing off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out.